So we need to talk about James Gunn, we need to talk about Warner Brothers, and we need to talk about Paramount and Skydance. Crazy times, guys. We've been kind of following for a while the purchasing rumors, the sell rumors for Warner Brothers Discovery. Zaslav has always wanted to sell this fucking company. We've sort of followed that over the past couple of years. But more recently, it's gotten a little serious with Paramount wanting the company and with Zaslav wanting to start a bidding war, a lot of different games being played. And one of the most recent reports was that there was an offer made and rejected by Warner Brothers. And there might be another offer being made. There was some reporting that maybe Ellison was out there buying stocks in the public market and was going to try to do a hostile takeover, although I don't think that's actually what it is, but like that kind of popped off as a little rumor. Apparently they're trying to gather together something like 80 billion or something, which seems like double what I think all of those assets are worth from what I've seen. I think it's valued at like 40 billion total or whatever. I've seen some reporting in financial magazines, even from this morning, where Ellison's talking about how even Zaslav has said that consolidation needs to happen. And really what you're seeing is Hollywood understanding that Hollywood itself might diminish so much as an industry that maybe combining studios together and creating like a tech company that leverages multiple Hollywood studios is maybe the only way for them to survive and fight against tech companies and companies like Amazon or Netflix going into the next stage of entertainment. So maybe Hollywood, in order to survive, has to join forces, has to actually consolidate, and Paramount and Warner Brothers becoming the same company is maybe a way that that happens, right? So, insanity. So many implications to that. Well, with all of this heating up, there's been a lot of questions about what will happen with James Gunn. And there's reporting coming out, and so far, the reporting is coming from what I would describe as like not the best sources. Okay, I would just describe this as not the best sources. Over on Cosmic Book News, you had Matt McGloin, who I think Matt actually does get some stuff right. I got to be honest with you, I think Matt does get some stuff right. But out here reporting that a very good source is saying that James Gunn will not be in charge of DCU if the sale goes through. It says here, in short, James Gunn will be out as head of DCU with the WBD sale. I'm told if David Ellison and Skydance Paramount buys Warner Brothers, that Mike DeLuca will be in charge of DC and do a completely new start. Okay, so that's the reporting that's out there. Okay, and again, that comes from what I would describe as not a great source. However, there were reports predating this one from Matt McGloin, and there was a lot of industry buzz about this as a possibility. Okay, I joked about this a little bit because the thing about Ellison is that they seem to be making a sort of branding position to position Paramount and Paramount Plus as somewhat of a conservative-friendly brand. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be like, that's just what it is. No if, and, or buts about it. That is absolutely what they're doing. And you can look at various comments made by them. You can look at the language being used when they break some of the news about their acquisitions. Look at the UFC deal. Look at the comments made by Ellison about not raising the price in middle America and flyover states and stuff like that. Look at the catalog they're building with all of these different actors like Stallone. It's super obvious. Paramount wants to be known as a conservative, friendly, or maybe even a traditional American company. Now, of course, it's not like he's going to be fully on that side. It's not like he's going to turn CNN into a conservative company, because I think, by the way, I think they've actually tried that before. They tried to make CNN balanced, and then they tried to make it conservative, and it didn't work, right? So it's not like the company's only going to do conservative things, but in general, I think it's fair to say that you can analyze the behavior of these people, and it does seem like that's sort of an audience group that they're sort of cozying up to, okay? Now, I brought this up, too, when we were talking about all of this sort of stuff, where the thing that's kind of wild is, they just did this big deal with UFC. Well, Zack Snyder is doing a massive movie with the UFC. So some big production that they're doing for the UFC. And I remember joking as this deal was being talked about a couple of weeks ago that like, yo, wait a minute. Paramount buys Warner Brothers. Paramount just bought the UFC. Paramount's making the UFC movie. Zack Snyder's making the UFC movie. Wait a minute. What if they just restore the Snyderverse? Okay? And that was just like a crazy, like trolly, like kind of funny thing to say. Well, all of a sudden, it seemed like this could actually be a possibility. Okay, so just this morning, Christian Harloff and John Roca, two people that have pretty good sources that are in the entertainment space, they're literally streaming right now as I'm making this segment. And from what I've heard from people that have come into chat, they're suggesting that there's some truth to this, that Gunn could actually be out at DC. And so, look, I'm looking forward to looking at what they said exactly, and we'll do a follow-up to this segment as more information comes out there. But, like, if you're honestly asking me, like, is there a chance that this actually happens, that Gunn does actually go away? Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay? Now, here's why. Here's why this could be happening. The biggest reason that this could be happening is just a branding. It's just a branding conflict, really. Because, frankly, Gunn's Superman, I think, is branded as being Gunn's Superman. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. I think it frustrates a lot of people like myself. Some people don't think it's that big of a deal. But it was obvious that Warner Brothers decided to make Gunn one of the stars and the front-facing pieces to the marketing. That's why he was on everything. That's why he's saying, hi, it's James Gunn, and then he's on all the commercials, he's in all of the footage, he's coming out on stage with the actors and all that sort of stuff. And he was the Marvel guy, so it kind of makes sense. You could argue a lot of the actors that they got for the movie are not A-list actors, like Robert Downey Jr. and all that, right? So, yeah, it makes sense. But what that in turn resulted in is a DC that is very much associated with James Gunn. And I think that is just true, and that's fair. And it also means something. It doesn't mean that, like, anything could happen. It doesn't mean that you expect a whole bunch of, like, dark, awesome, like, it has a very specific connotation, a very specific feeling. And frankly, do you know what that is? It's Peacemaker. Deadass. That's what it is. The James Gunn DCU feels like Peacemaker. It feels like Suicide Squad. It feels like Guardians. And I think if I were Ellis and I were looking at how I wanted to use the DC characters, because this is big IP, brother. Like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, that's massive. That's huge IP. Maybe some of the biggest IP on the planet. I think if you look at what's going on right now with Warner Brothers and their handling of DC, which is frankly happening under the leadership of Gunn, it's all fucked up. I mean, I talked about it all the time, dude. Are you kidding me? Batman in 3 years and it's not even your Batman. Superman into Supergirl? Into Clayface? Superman can't even make what Man of Steel made? Like, this isn't popping off. Dude, Creature Commandos can't chart. Like, this is not, like, let me just ask you this. Even if you're a big fan of DC, even if you're a big fan of the Superman movie, even if you're a big fan of James Gunn, I feel like you'd have to admit that DC is being underutilized. That this is not the ideal to pop the fuck off with the DC characters. Can we at least admit that? Can we at least admit that this is not going as good as it could be? I think that's totally fucking fair, dude. I think that's totally fucking fair, and I think it's obvious. So if I were a billionaire looking at an acquisition for IP, which, come on, man, they're not buying this because James Gunn's Superman just made $615 million in the global box office. That is so obviously not why they want to buy Warner Brothers, right? DC is way more valuable than what James Gunn has been able to get out of DC. So from that perspective, if I'm looking at how to leverage DC for my brand, I'm thinking fresh start. I'm thinking all the red tape that stopped it from popping off the way that it should have is all getting removed. I want one visionary with corporate considerations in control of this thing. And we're going to build it, plan it, cancel everything, and restart at a certain date and time. That's what I would do. You know what I mean? Like, frankly, that is honestly what I would do. But, you know, somehow that still does feel a little far-fetched, especially because if you think about it from Warner Brothers' perspective, all the focus and emphasis on Superman and, you know, the DCU overall, like, Zazie was doing all of this to try to bolster the price. Like, he's just trying to get that stock price to go. Like, he's just trying to make that feel more appealing to some other corporations, right? So there was a lot of work done that was sort of done to try to prop this up. And Gunn played ball, you know, Gunn cut stuff and changed stuff. And, you know, I think it's as good of a partner as you could ask for from Zaslav's perspective, considering the circumstances. So I don't know, man. It's just interesting how it's all gone down. I honestly would not be surprised. I mean, that feels like some cold ass corporate bullshit, man. I will say this though. There's going to be a huge backlash if this happens. There will be massive backlash, okay? I think probably the real thing to do, the best thing to do, if this goes through, is to let Gunn, I would say, this is what I would do. I would maybe say, let's hold off on that Man of Tomorrow going into production. Let's see how Supergirl does. If Supergirl bombs, it might be Jover. Like, I'm going to be honest. If Supergirl bombs, it might be Jover. Because especially from the perspective of the conservative billionaire guy, if Supergirl underperforms, that's going to just sort of justify for me a feeling that I have that DC should be more than like James Gunn's little group of misfit toys, you know? So, yeah, that's where we stand here, guys. Frankly, a lot of reasons to believe that this rumor is bullshit, you know? I haven't really heard too much from very reliable people. It is kind of interesting that Harloff is talking about it. It is kind of interesting that that John's talking about it, and I'm, you know, more than willing to talk about it as well. I wonder if there will be more smoke here. I still have a hard time believing that it will happen. Like, what do you guys think? Do you think it's going to happen? I kind of don't think so. I think Gunn is here to stay. But when these kind of things happen, when mergers happen, when acquisitions happen, the probability of very crazy black swan events going on go up like astronomically. So like from a basically 0% chance to a 5% chance, that's almost like an unlimited percentage of increase in probability. It would be wild if Paramount went with Matt Reeves. Yeah, it would be wild, yeah. Supergirl is going to bomb if the normies didn't go see Superman or weren't into it. How are they going to show up for the girl version? I mean, like, dude, you're kind of being a dick about it, but that's my point. I've been trying to, like, that's just the succinct way to say it. If normies didn't see Superman or weren't into it, they're not going to show up for the girl version. I would say it's a derivative. It's like the same thing with Ballerina, which, by the way, it's so funny, right? When the Ballerina movie flopped, everybody was like, oh, but it's girl John Wick. Of course it was always going to do worse. Well, then what's the point in making girl John Wick, really? You know what I mean? Like, deadass. Like, what's the fucking point? What are you doing here? And is that the mentality for this too? Like, dude, of course, is that what Gunn's going to say when it bombs? Of course, Supergirl was always going to make less than Superman. Then why'd you follow up Superman with Supergirl when you're trying to launch your fucking universe? You know? That's crazy to me. Harloff said he doesn't believe Gunn will be out, but they are covering it as a what if because you never know what actually happens. Oh, okay, interesting. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense then, yeah. I heard Ballerina was good, but I still haven't watched it. Well, that's because you're a sexist, horrible person. And if you want to be a good person, you better go watch Girl John Wick. Gunn and his 70s soundtrack music. I think Gunn's taste in music is actually pretty good. It's like one of his redeeming qualities. Warner Brothers rejected the Paramount offer. Yes, reportedly they rejected the first offer, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. I think we'll probably know soon, though. I've seen some people speculate that this deal could be closed by the end of the year. I would imagine that they want it to be done. I think Zaslav wants it to be done. Everybody wants this to just be done. Everybody wants to just move on to the next thing. I'm only kind of sexist. Oh, okay, gotcha. Snyder sucked. Gunn did well. But DC is just in the game too late. Superhero films are on the outs. Sadly, Marvel can survive if they can adapt by meshing with other genres. Horror, anime. Yeah. I think there's some truth in that too. But then it's like, okay, so I guess my rebuttal to that would be, if that's what it is, then isn't it the person's job who is in charge of the thing, the president of the studio, to understand the state of the industry and to make the best content for that time? Meaning, like, I don't know, in some ways, Gunn made like a Marvel Superman that's like a chapter 1. And I think you could argue that, given the state of where fans are at with comic book movies, making a first chapter Superman that's a Marvel movie might not have been the move. And you look at the box office and say, yeah, might not have been the move. At what point does he become accountable for that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. HBO Max to Sunset and Paramount double the cost? Yeah, probably. But he said he wasn't going to raise the price, though, for the UFC. So I doubt they would raise it for James Gunn's shit, you know? Yeah. Did watch Superman, and it needs to be done. I'm done. Oh, shit. James Gunn is the GOAT. If Static was in Superman, we would all be bowing. I mean, sure, bud, sure. Yeah, because that's always said and didn't raise the price. Did they ever raise the price of the Arizona iced tea? That's how you know our economy is actually fucked. When that guy has to raise the price of the Arizona iced tea, then we're going to know for sure that we're cooked, man. Shit.